You settle into stillness as though lowering yourself onto soft earth at the end of a long day, feeling supported without effort, breathing without instruction, simply arriving. The room around you fades, and your attention turns inward, toward a place that has always been there, waiting quietly, like a garden you somehow know without remembering when you first saw it. Warm light seems to spread behind your closed eyes. Your shoulders loosen. Your breath slows. This is enough. Inside you, beneath skin and thought and habit, there is a vast and patient landscape. It does not rush. It does not ask for decisions. It grows because growth is what it has always done. This is the garden within you, carried inside every cell, folded gently into places too small to feel, yet always present, always working, even while you rest. You imagine stepping into this garden without shoes, the ground neither cold nor warm, simply welcoming. The air moves slowly here, carrying the faint hum of life continuing at its own pace. Every path is familiar even if you have never walked it before. This garden is your DNA, not as a code or a diagram, but as a living terrain shaped by time, weather, and countless quiet adjustments. Plants grow here that have been growing for generations. Some are sturdy and dependable, rising each season without question. Others are delicate, responding quickly to changes in light or air. Seeds from long ago still rest in the soil, patient, waiting for conditions that may never come, and that is fine. A garden does not need every seed to sprout. As you breathe in, you sense how nothing here is hurried. As you breathe out, you notice how nothing is wasted. Even the pauses matter, especially the pauses. Somewhere along one winding path, you notice vines climbing where they were never meant to climb. They curl tightly around healthy branches, not out of malice, but out of caution. These vines are allergies. They are not invaders. They are overprotective growths, responding to imagined danger, trying very hard to keep you safe. Your immune system, in this garden, is like a well-meaning caretaker who once saw a storm and never quite forgot it. Since then, it has watched the sky closely, sometimes too closely. A drifting grain of pollen becomes a warning sign. A harmless speck becomes a threat. The vines grow thicker. The leaves crowd together. Light has a harder time reaching the soil. You do not scold the garden for this. You do not demand it change. You simply notice. You kneel. You look closely. Understanding begins with seeing, not fixing. And then, quietly, without fanfare, you notice a presence nearby. Not a machine. Not a command. Just careful hands learning the layout of the soil. This is CRISPR. It does not arrive with noise or urgency. It does not announce itself as a solution. It waits, observing how each plant leans, how each root twists gently underground. CRISPR here is not a blade swinging wildly. It is a pair of patient pruning shears, resting in open palms. It exists to understand before it acts. It listens to the garden's history. It respects what has grown naturally and what has grown out of fear. There is something faintly amusing about how serious the garden once thought it needed to be. You sense a gentle humor in the way those vines tried so hard, wrapping themselves around everything, like a sweater knitted several sizes too small. The garden smiles if gardens can smile. You smile too, just slightly. Nothing needs to be cut tonight. Nothing needs to be changed. The shears remain still. Observation is enough. Awareness is enough. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do is sit on a low stone wall and breathe. As you inhale, warmth spreads through your chest like late afternoon sun. As you exhale, the garden exhales with you. You are not separate from this place. You never were. You are both the walker and the soil, the breath and the breeze moving between leaves. Science in this moment is not sharp or cold. It is slow curiosity. It is the willingness to look closely at what already exists. DNA is not destiny carved in stone. It is landscape shaped by weather, memory, and care. Changes slowly. Forgives easily. You feel reassured knowing that nothing inside you is broken. Some things are simply overgrown. Some paths need light. And some nights are meant only for rest. The garden settles as evening deepens. Colors soften. Sounds drift farther apart. You sense that deeper layers lie ahead, smaller spaces, quieter conversations waiting to be heard. You do not follow them yet. You let your breath guide you forward, narrowing gently, like twilight settling over leaves, drawing your focus closer, closer, toward a single cell. You drift closer now, as though leaning in to hear a conversation that was never meant to be loud. The garden does not resist your presence. It seems to welcome your curiosity, parting slightly, allowing you to notice smaller movements, quieter rhythms, subtle exchanges that were always happening beyond conscious reach. Your breath stays slow. Your body feels heavy in a pleasant way. Listening becomes effortless. Beneath the broad leaves and familiar paths, there is another layer of life unfolding. Cells speak to one another constantly, though they never raise their voices. Their language is made of signals, gentle touches, passing molecules like notes slipped between friends. Nothing here shouts. Nothing demands attention. Communication happens the way wind moves through grass, felt more than heard. You imagine standing very still, so still that even the garden seems to pause with you. In this stillness, messages flow. One cell releases a signal. Another receives it and responds with a small change, a subtle shift in behavior. This is how coordination happens. This is how balance is maintained. It is quiet work. Very quiet. Genes live within this conversation. They do not issue orders. They offer tendencies, possibilities, gentle suggestions about how a cell might behave if the conditions feel right. A gene is less like a rule and more like a habit, something learned over time and repeated because it once worked well enough. You feel reassured by this. Nothing inside you is being commanded. Everything is responding. Allergies begin here, in this soft exchange of information. An immune cell encounters something harmless drifting in from the outside world. A grain of pollen, a trace of dust. Somewhere along the line, a message is misread. Not dramatically, just slightly. A whisper sounds like a warning. A neutral signal feels tense. The immune sentries, earnest and devoted, react the way they always have. They prepare. They alert others. They tighten their grip on the garden's edges. Vines grow thicker. Leaves overlap. Protection increases, even though danger never truly arrives. There is something quietly endearing about this response. The cells are trying their best. They remember something they think they learned. They act out of care. If they had shoulders, they might shrug and say, "Better safe than sorry." You almost chuckle at the thought. Even microscopic life can be a little overcautious. You remain calm. The garden remains calm. Understanding begins to soften the moment. And here, moving gently through these hushed conversations, is CRISPR again. Not interrupting, not correcting, simply listening. In this chapter of the garden, CRISPR feels like a translator sitting between two speakers who have slowly drifted out of sync. It does not rewrite the language. It helps cells reread what is already written, tracing familiar sentences with kinder eyes. It notices where meaning became tangled, where emphasis shifted just enough to cause confusion. It offers clarity, not force. You sense how powerful that is. Not dramatic power, quiet power, the kind that restores harmony by adjusting tone rather than volume. As you inhale, the air feels smoother. As you exhale, tension loosens its hold. You imagine signals passing more clearly now, moving without urgency, without alarm. The immune system listens again. The garden breathes easier. The science here feels gentle because it is. Life prefers balance. Cells are not eager for conflict. They settle into patterns that feel safe and familiar. When misunderstandings arise, they do so slowly, and they can be soothed just as slowly. You rest in this idea. Nothing inside you is at war. Things are simply miscommunicating. And miscommunication, once noticed, can be eased. The garden grows quieter as you stay. Sounds space themselves out. Messages slow. You feel yourself drifting deeper into attention, closer to individual leaves, individual cells, individual moments of exchange. The air hums faintly, steady and calm. As you breathe, your focus narrows again, gently, naturally. The garden draws you closer, inviting you to see how protection itself can sometimes grow too dense, how care can turn inward and crowd the light. Somewhere nearby, hedges wait, thick and well-intentioned, ready to be explored next, as night insects begin their soft, rhythmic hum. You arrive at the hedges gently, without surprise, as though you always knew they would be here. They rise along the garden paths, thick and carefully grown, layered leaf upon leaf, branch upon branch. At first glance, they look impressive, protective, strong. They were planted with good intentions, and they have done their job faithfully for a very long time. You stand still beside them. You breathe. The garden breathes back. These hedges are the immune system learning vigilance. Long ago, something brushed too close. A signal felt sharp. A moment lingered longer than expected. And so the garden responded the way gardens do, by growing boundaries. It added layers. It remembered. It repeated what once seemed useful. Protection is a skill learned slowly. Cells learn it the way paths form under repeated footsteps. One response works, so it is remembered. Another response feels safe, so it is reinforced. Over time, the hedges grow taller, denser, more elaborate. Not because the garden is afraid, but because it is attentive. You trace the outline of a leaf with your eyes. It is healthy. It is vibrant. Nothing here is broken. Sometimes, though, protection keeps growing even when the danger has passed. The hedges thicken until light struggles to reach the soil beneath. Air moves less freely. Space becomes tight. This is where allergies take root, not as attacks, but as overgrowth. The immune system, earnest and dedicated, mistakes presence for threat. Pollen drifts by, light as dust, and the hedges respond as if a storm is coming. They tighten. They reinforce. They react. Not because they are wrong, but because they remember something they believe they must never forget. You feel no frustration toward them. You feel understanding. Habits form everywhere, even inside cells. Especially inside cells. Science here speaks softly. Immune memory is not a flaw. It is a pattern. It is repetition carried forward because it once offered safety. The garden does not judge its own growth. It simply continues. You notice how quiet this realization feels. There is no drama in it. No urgency. Just recognition. Nearby, resting against a low stone wall, are the pruning shears again. CRISPR waits without movement. It does not approach the hedges with urgency or impatience. It understands that these boundaries exist for a reason. It understands that sudden cutting would only alarm the garden further. CRISPR, in this space, is careful trimming. It is adjustment rather than removal. It is letting sunlight filter back in without tearing roots from the ground. The goal is not openness at all costs. The goal is balance. You smile faintly at how human this feels. Even gardens, it seems, struggle to know when to relax. You imagine the hedges sighing slightly, relieved at the idea that they do not have to stand so tall all the time. Protection, after all, is tiring work. You inhale slowly as leaves part just enough to let warmth through. You exhale, and tension drifts away, like loose soil falling back into place. The garden responds not with resistance, but with relief. Light touches the ground again, not harshly, gently, enough to remind the roots that growth does not always mean expansion. Sometimes it means easing back. You sense how the immune system can learn new habits, just as it learned the old ones. Patterns can soften. Responses can shift. Nothing here is locked in place forever. The science remains calm. There is no erasing memory, only reframing it. No silencing vigilance, only guiding it. Cells are remarkably willing to adapt when given time and safety. You rest with this understanding. You do not ask the hedges to disappear. You thank them for their service. You let them know they can lower their guard just a little, just for now. Somewhere in the distance, night insects begin their hum. The sound is steady and reassuring, like a metronome for rest. The garden grows quieter as the work of trimming remains conceptual. Not yet action, simply possibility. You feel yourself settling deeper into the rhythm of this place. Reaction slows. Response becomes thoughtful. The difference matters. As you stand there, surrounded by softened boundaries and returning light, You sense that the garden is ready to teach you something else. There are tools to understand, histories to uncover, origins waiting patiently to be remembered. You breathe once more, slow and full. The hedges stand calmly beside you, no longer crowding the path. And as the hum of insects carries you forward, your attention shifts gently from reaction toward response, drifting toward the quiet story of how the shears themselves were first discovered, glinting faintly beneath a rising moon. You move through the garden as moonlight settles in, soft and silver, revealing shapes that were always present but easier to see now. The hedges rest behind you, calmer, no longer pressing close. Ahead, something small catches the light. Not sharp, not threatening, just waiting. You approach without hurry, your steps guided by curiosity rather than need. The shears rest where they always have, because they did not arrive from elsewhere. They grew here. You sense that immediately. CRISPR does not feel like a human invention dropped into the garden. It feels like something the garden has always known, something quietly borrowed and carefully understood. Long before anyone noticed this place, bacteria were already tending their own tiny landscapes. They faced invaders constantly, waves of them, arriving without warning. Instead of panicking, they learned. They kept fragments of memory, small reminders of what had passed through before. Not grudges, just notes. If this comes again, here is how to recognize it. This remembering was not loud. It was efficient, elegant. When the same intruder returned, the bacteria responded calmly, trimming away what did not belong, restoring balance without ceremony. Over time, this system became part of their rhythm, as natural as growth itself. You smile softly at the idea that humans did not invent these shears, but notice them lying in the soil. There is something humbling about that. Science, at its best, is not conquest. It is listening closely enough to learn what life is already doing well. CRISPR is discovered the way one notices a familiar tool at dusk, half hidden, reflecting just enough light to invite attention. Someone pauses. Someone looks closer. And suddenly, something ancient becomes visible. You kneel beside the shears now, running your gaze along their shape. They are not oversized. They are not dramatic. They fit the hand easily, balanced, designed for precision rather than force. This is not a tool for rewriting the garden story. It is for adjusting its margins, making room for clarity. The garden seems amused by how long it took to notice. Life has a gentle sense of humor. It often waits patiently while observers rush past, convinced that answers must arrive with spectacle. Here, the answer was resting quietly the whole time. You breathe in. The air feels cool and steady. You breathe out. The ground feels firm beneath you. CRISPR, in human hands, does not suddenly become something else. Carries its original temperament with it. Prefers specificity. It dislikes chaos. It works best when guided slowly, deliberately, with respect for context. You feel reassured knowing this. The idea of editing genes could sound alarming in brighter light, but here, in the calm of the garden, it feels almost ordinary. Another way of tending. Another form of care that must be learned before it is used. You imagine bacteria as tiny gardeners weathering endless storms, quietly adapting, never asking for credit. There is something comforting in knowing that memory itself can be stored gently, without anger, without fear, just readiness. The science settles into you like a warm blanket. CRISPR is not about domination over life. It is about collaboration with patterns that already exist. It is about understanding how living systems solve their own problems and stepping in only with permission. You chuckle faintly at the thought that the most powerful tools are often the least flashy. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just patience and good timing. The garden approves. As the moon rises higher, its light glints off the shears again, not demanding attention, merely acknowledging it. You do not reach for them. You do not need to. Knowing they exist is enough for now. Discovery does not require action. Sometimes it only requires recognition. You feel how slowly this knowledge arrived, and how slowly it continues to unfold. That slowness is not a flaw. It is a safeguard. It allows questions to breathe. It allows ethics to catch up with possibility. The garden grows quieter as the night deepens. Leaves hold still. Air thickens slightly with calm. You sense that understanding is layering itself gently inside you, not pressing, not urging. CRISPR remains where it is, resting in patient hands that may or may not lift it someday. There is no rush. There is no demand. Only awareness. As you rise and continue along the path, the shears fade softly from view, their presence lingering without weight. Dew begins to form on leaves. The garden settles again, whole and unaltered. Your breath stays slow as you move forward, carrying with you the comfort of knowing that care can be precise without being forceful, that discovery can be quiet, and that the story of this garden is still being written, one gentle margin at a time, as moonlight follows you onward into deeper understanding. You step carefully into a part of the garden where light pools on soft soil, illuminating paths that were hidden moments ago. Each step is deliberate, though not hurried. The hedges from before rest quietly behind you, softened by gentle observation. Ahead, the garden stretches in smaller, more intricate patterns, a tangle of roots, leaves, and delicate sprouts. The air is thick with the faint scent of earth, warm and reassuring, carrying the hum of life moving slowly through countless tiny spaces. Here, you notice that some plants have grown a little too densely, leaves brushing one another, roots overlapping beneath the soil. They are the pathways that sometimes confuse the immune system. Allergies are rooted here, not as invaders, not as faults, but as careful hedges grown too thick in response to past seasons. Their intentions are good. Their timing is imperfect. You take a deep breath, feeling warmth rise through your chest, and exhale slowly, letting tension melt from your shoulders. You notice how easy it is to watch without judgment, to follow the curves of the roots and the arcs of branches without wanting to intervene. The garden allows this. You are welcomed as a quiet observer, a patient witness. And here are the shears again, CRISPR, resting lightly in invisible hands. They are not scissors flung violently through the undergrowth. They are guided, deliberate. They trace patterns that have always been present, smoothing edges rather than tearing them away. Each cut is measured, precise, informed by the rhythm of the garden itself. There is no rush. There is no harshness. You imagine CRISPR as a teacher rather than a fixer, gently showing each vine where to grow, where to pause. It does not erase. It does not demand. It aligns, nudges, whispers. Perhaps a little more light here, perhaps a little space there. And the garden responds, as if it had been waiting for that quiet suggestion all along. The science of this feels intimate, like a conversation held beneath leaves. Genes associated with allergies are not switches to be flipped. They are pathways, subtle and winding, guiding cells along patterns that have formed over generations. They suggest, they encourage, they respond. With care, they can be redirected without losing their identity. You inhale, letting the imagery fill your chest. You exhale, imagining the air settling around every root, every leaf. You feel the difference between removal and guidance, between force and gentle persuasion. Life prefers persuasion. There is a faint humor in the meticulousness of this work. You can almost hear the garden chuckle at how long humans have worried about control. Patience. It seems to whisper. Observe first. Intervene lightly. Laugh softly along the way. You smile. The idea of power, wielded softly, feels comforting, not intimidating. You notice how the light moves across the paths now. Dew glimmers faintly, as if nodding approval. Small insects hum quietly, brushing along leaves, reminding you that life continues at its own pace, unaffected by your presence or absence. The shears wait silently, their promise held in restraint. CRISPR operates in harmony with the garden's natural rhythm. Adjustments are made in alignment with the existing order, not against it. The goal is clarity, not erasure. Understanding, not erasure. Balance, not perfection. Each careful nudge preserves identity, while making room for more light, more breath, more air. You feel yourself relax into this rhythm. Each inhalation draws in warmth, understanding, reassurance. Each exhalation releases tension, doubt, expectation. You feel how the garden trusts you now, how you trust the garden, and how the shears trust the hands that hold them, even when those hands are only imagined. You remember that you, too, are part of this system. You are more than a single gene, more than a pathway, more than an outcome. You are both observer and participant, breathing in and out with the garden, moving through it without force, without fear. The moonlight shifts, touching the edges of leaves with silver, highlighting where space has been restored. Roots breathe beneath the soil. Air flows between leaves. The hedges, once crowded, relax. There is no rush. There is only the gentle unfolding of growth, of understanding, of possibility. A long exhale carries you further into this quiet world, releasing every worry that perhaps something needs fixing. Nothing here demands perfection. The garden teaches patience. The shears guide gently, and you learn to breathe with both. Warmth rises in your chest. Hum drifts through the air. Light touches the soil like soft fingers. You notice the faint dew collecting on leaves. You notice the patterns shifting ever so slightly. You notice your body, slow and present, breathing in sync with the rhythm of life surrounding you. Science, care, observation, and patience coalesce in a space that feels safe, soft, alive. And as the garden settles into calm once more, as leaves and roots and air find their gentle balance, you sense the world beyond this small patch. Choices stretch forward, unhurried, delicate, waiting for insight, for care, for understanding. Somewhere just beyond your vision, seeds of possibility begin to stir, hinting at questions yet to be asked, as distant thunder rolls softly, reminding you that the ground beneath your feet remains steady, patient, and enduring. You walk slowly along a path softened by moonlight, feeling the garden beneath your feet, sensing the quiet rhythm of life stretching far beyond a single plant or hedge. The air is still, cool against your skin, carrying the faint scent of soil and dew. In this calm, you notice patterns that have endured for seasons, stretching back farther than memory allows. You sense inheritance as more than a line of DNA. It is the weather of life, gentle and persistent, shaping growth without command. Allergies, like storms, pass subtly through generations. They are not always harsh. Sometimes they are whispers, small reminders of seasons long ago, of pollen that drifted differently, of winds that changed the soil in ways unseen. They are tendencies, not destiny. They move through lineages as quietly as clouds drift across the sky, touching leaves and roots with influence rather than force. You pause, feeling the air move over your skin. Inhale, exhale. Each breath is steady, grounding, warm, connecting you to the garden and to what stretches beyond it. You notice that inheritance is never rigid. It is a climate variable shaped by sun and rain, by choice and chance, by the quiet influence of living in a space with care and attention. CRISPR exists here as a thoughtful observer. It asks questions softly. Could we intervene before the seeds sprout too tightly? Could we guide growth without taking away what makes the garden resilient? These questions drift like leaves on a pond, present, but moving with the current rather than against it. There is no urgency. There is only reflection. You smile faintly at the notion that even the most intricate tools cannot hurry the weather, cannot speed the seasons. Possibility unfolds naturally, season by season, generation by generation. You notice that this slow unfolding is comforting. It reassures you that care, attention, and patience are always in harmony with time. You look at a single branch bending gently under the weight of dew. The droplets reflect the dim light, sparkling quietly. You feel how heredity is like that, reflections of past conditions caught in present form, without judgment, without hurry. Each droplet contains memory, yes, but also potential. Each branch bends, but it does not break. Each path is open to gentle adjustment. Your breath deepens. Inhale, exhale. You sense how the garden has learned to respond to subtle signals across years, across lifetimes, without panic, without force. This learning is patient. It is resilient. It is quietly beautiful. CRISPR, resting nearby, observes without interference. It is a reminder that intervention is a choice, not a mandate. You do not need to act immediately. You do not need to rush. Awareness itself is enough to guide decisions later, to nurture growth at the right pace. You feel your body absorbing this rhythm. Your heart slows in tune with the garden. Muscles loosen. Your mind softens. Each cell, each pathway, seems to inhale and exhale along with you, following the quiet pattern of inherited patience. The garden feels alive in layers you could never fully measure. Roots whisper through the soil. Leaves shimmer in the faint breeze. Every branch knows its place, every seed its time. You feel the delicate balance between what has been passed down and what can still grow. You sense freedom in that balance, a subtle kind of power grounded in observation and care. As you walk further, distant thunder rumbles softly, a reminder that the world outside the garden continues, carrying its own patterns, rhythms, and possibilities. The ground beneath you does not tremble. You are steady. You are safe. You are part of the slow unfolding of life. You inhale the scent of damp earth and breathe it into your chest. You exhale, releasing tension, expectation, the faint worry of what might come next. In this space, heredity feels gentle, malleable, responsive. You are reminded that growth, like weather, arrives in its own good time. The garden bends toward quiet reflection, its branches brushing softly against one another. You follow the paths, noticing the patterns of inheritance, of possibility, of care unfolding over years, and you sense that the next layer of understanding awaits. A deeper layer of responsibility, humility, and ethical awareness that lies just beneath the soil, beneath the stars, beneath the quiet hum of life itself. You kneel softly on the cool soil, feeling the texture beneath your fingertips, the faint warmth of life pulsing under the surface. The garden stretches around you, quiet and patient. Every leaf and root seems aware of your presence, but does not demand it. You inhale slowly, feeling the rhythm of the earth through your lungs, and exhale gently, releasing tension, releasing expectation. You are here to listen, not to act. Beneath the surface, life unfolds in ways both delicate and intricate. Every cell, every pathway, carries the memory of seasons past. You notice that every choice, even the quietest one, can ripple through the garden, touching roots far away. The responsibility of that knowledge hums faintly, like a distant current beneath calm waters. You sense that tending this landscape requires care, patience, and awareness. Editing genes, you realize, is not unlike tending shared soil. One touch affects many plants. One adjustment, however gentle, can ripple outward. The garden reminds you, softly, that care must be thoughtful. Restraint is as important as action. Humility matters more than force. There is a quiet power in restraint, in observing before acting, in pausing long enough to hear the soil breathe. CRISPR rests nearby, a subtle presence, glinting faintly in the dappled moonlight. It does not demand to be used. It waits, observing the interplay of roots, leaves, and pathways. In this chapter of the garden, it is a teacher, a guide, a gentle reminder that understanding precedes intervention. The strength is measured, precise, intentional. You consider the ethics of tending life. It is not about control, not about dominance. It is about listening. It is about learning where to adjust and where to leave well enough alone. You feel a quiet reassurance that asking questions slowly, carefully, can be as impactful as action itself. Mindfulness becomes a tool as vital as the shears, shaping the garden through presence rather than cutting. You notice the subtle humor in the garden's patience. Life has been waiting for eons, observing, adjusting, quietly thriving. And here you are, a brief moment in its rhythm, trying to decide what is right. You smile softly, realizing that humility is a lifelong companion. Even the most precise tool cannot replace it. Breathing in, you sense the soil's readiness to support life, even as you consider intervention. Breathing out, you release any notion of urgency, any sense that the garden must bend to your timeline. Nature moves in slow currents, unseen but steady, and ethics moves alongside it, guiding each careful decision. Every root you touch feels alive. Every leaf responds subtly to your presence. You understand that CRISPR's purpose is not to dominate, but to cooperate. Editing is a practice of listening, of noticing where growth can be aided without erasing the past, without silencing what has long been thriving. Balance is preserved when intervention respects context. Stars begin to emerge through the garden canopy, tiny points of light reflecting patience, continuity, and the vastness beyond your immediate presence. Questions arise gently, without demand. How much should one intervene? How much is better left untouched? Each query drifts like a feather through the cool night air. You inhale, you exhale. You allow the answers to settle slowly, unhurried. CRISPR teaches that even the most precise tools are only as wise as the hands that hold them. Science grows best when guided by care. Trust becomes an essential ingredient, patience a companion. You notice the faint hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the subtle vibration of soil responding to distant currents of air. Everything is connected. Nothing is isolated. You rise slowly, leaving your hands resting briefly on the ground, acknowledging the work that continues unseen beneath your gaze. The garden seems to pulse with quiet approval, an unspoken reminder that humility, restraint, and mindfulness are as important as skill, knowledge, or innovation. As you step back, the soil holds its breath, the roots adjust subtly, and CRISPR remains poised, waiting for the moment when understanding and care will guide action. You feel a gentle assurance that ethical consideration, like the garden itself, grows best when it moves with patience. The stars continue to emerge, soft and distant, and you feel the questions of responsibility and restraint lingering lightly, like a breeze brushing across leaves, opening a path toward the next layer of exploration. Whether immune memory itself can be soothed and guided, rather than controlled or silenced. You pause on a quiet path where dew has gathered on low leaves, tiny mirrors reflecting the faint glow of distant stars. The garden seems even softer here, as though it has been waiting for you to notice a smaller, subtler layer of life. You inhale slowly, feeling the cool, moist air fill your lungs, and exhale gently, allowing the rhythm of the garden to settle into your body. Each breath is a reminder. You do not need to hurry. You do not need to fix anything tonight. You consider the immune system once more, imagining it as a vigilant gardener with a memory of storms long past. The cells that overreact are not bad. They are merely protective, carrying lessons from seasons gone by. Like young vines that twine around sturdy branches, allergies wrap themselves around pathways that have long been useful, but are now crowded. And yet, you sense a possibility. Could these habits be eased? Could memory be guided rather than erased? You watch as tiny branches bend slightly in the breeze, as if nodding in agreement with your thought. There is no rush. There is no harshness. There is only the gentle unfolding of what might be. CRISPR appears softly at the edge of this layer, patient and still. It is not a command. It is a possibility. It exists to assist understanding, to guide without taking over. Here, its power is quiet, tempered by observation. It offers the chance to nudge growth gently, to open spaces where light might filter through thickened vines, to create room for calm without disturbing the underlying structure. Allergy-related genes are not switches to flip. They are pathways, winding like streams through the soil, tracing familiar courses that have been reinforced over time. You notice that with gentle encouragement, these paths can shift slightly, bend here, widen there, without losing their essential character. The cells can learn to respond differently, not because they have been forced, but because the environment itself has changed. You inhale warmth from the earth beneath you, letting the garden's quiet patience fill your chest. You exhale slowly, releasing tension, releasing the sense that something must be corrected immediately. Even the tiniest changes ripple outward slowly, imperceptibly, and that is enough. The garden knows this. You know this. You notice how the air itself seems to participate in the lesson. A soft hum drifts from the leaves. Insects move deliberately, brushing gently along stems. Dew glimmers on every surface, reflecting light without urgency. The world teaches that progress does not require force. Clarity does not demand violence. There is a faint humor here, almost imperceptible, like the garden winking as it bends a vine back into place. The cells that once reacted so sharply are now able to pause, to sense before responding. They learn gently, gradually. The immune system is still attentive, still vigilant, but it can also be patient, can also rest. You allow curiosity to fill your thoughts, letting wonder drift where fear might have been. Questions do not demand answers. Possibilities simply exist, waiting. You notice how much lighter the garden feels when certainty softens into openness, when expectation gives way to quiet observation. Breathing in, you sense the gentle rhythm of life stretching through the soil, through the roots, through every tiny branch. Breathing out, you let go of the idea that you must understand everything at once. The garden, the immune system, the pathways of memory, they all unfold in time, guided by patience, shaped by care. You feel yourself sinking deeper into this rhythm. Your body, your mind, your awareness all move together with the gentle pulse of life around you. CRISPR waits at the edge of understanding, a possibility shimmering softly, a tool that need not act today to still be present. The stars above glimmer faintly, and the hum of insects slows to a lullaby-like rhythm. The garden exhales with you, the vines ease, the pathways bend slightly in the moonlight. You are reminded. Growth is possible without force, understanding can arrive without alarm, and sleep, quiet, restorative sleep, can come easily as the garden carries its lessons softly forward. And as the night deepens, the garden settles into patient quiet once more. You sense that the next step, the next question, is waiting just beyond your vision. The delicate line between easing suffering and shaping preference, a layer of understanding that asks for care, attention, and humility in equal measure. The breeze drifts across leaves, carrying you gently onward. You wander slowly along a path lined with long, arching branches, their leaves brushing softly against your fingertips. The air carries the faint sweetness of evening blooms, gentle and grounding. Each step feels deliberate, measured, yet effortless, as if the garden itself is guiding you forward. You inhale slowly, feeling the cool, steady air fill your lungs, and exhale, letting your body relax, letting your mind settle into the quiet rhythm of the world around you. You pause and notice the way the garden grows in layers, each plant following its own logic, each pathway winding, bending, and overlapping with others. Some paths are crowded, some are open, some branches twist toward light, some lean toward shade. You realize that every element has its place, and yet there is room for gentle adjustment, for thoughtful guidance. It is here, in this layered complexity, that you begin to feel the subtle line between healing and designing. Allergies, once overgrown hedges, can be soothed. They can be eased back without erasing the patterns that have long guided the immune system. Healing is not about control. Healing is about relief, about space, about allowing life to unfold without unnecessary strain. Designing, by contrast, feels different. It is deliberate shaping, imposing form rather than responding. Some branches in the garden, some pathways in the body, are exactly where they belong, even if they seem imperfect at first glance. They carry history. They carry resilience. To remove them simply because they could be altered is to ignore the wisdom embedded in their growth. You inhale slowly, feeling warmth spread through your chest. You exhale, imagining tension flowing out of your body like water running gently over stones. Each breath reminds you that restraint is not weakness. It is wisdom. The garden itself knows this. The shears, CRISPR, waits lightly in your awareness, a tool of possibility rather than demand. The science here is soft and careful. Genes associated with allergies are not obstacles. They are part of a complex ecosystem, interwoven with countless others. Changing them is not merely a matter of efficiency or desire. It is a question of responsibility, patience, and understanding. You notice a small vine curling delicately around a neighboring stem. It does not strangle. It supports. The pattern is subtle, elegant. You smile faintly, sensing the humor of life. Growth rarely follows simple lines. Even the most precise intervention cannot predict every twist. The garden thrives because it adapts, because it learns, because it balances curiosity with caution. CRISPR exists here as a partner, not a master. Its presence is a quiet one, attentive, precise, capable of guiding growth without imposing shape. The garden does not fear it. It simply waits, recognizing that wisdom is as important as power. You feel comforted knowing that care matters more than speed, that alignment matters more than control. You inhale, drawing the rich scent of soil and leaves into your body. You exhale, letting go of any notion that change must be dramatic to be meaningful. Every adjustment, every gentle nudge, is enough when it is measured, patient, and informed. You feel a slow smile spreading across your awareness, a quiet joy in the subtlety of life's rhythms. The night hums softly, insects droning their steady, comforting rhythm. Light filters through branches, creating a shifting mosaic of shadows on the soil. You feel the garden breathe along with you. Each pathway you observe seems to pause, to settle, as if aware that understanding is unfolding gently, without pressure. You notice how ambition, once sharp and forward-reaching, softens into care. Desire to shape gives way to attentiveness. Desire to control is replaced with a quiet curiosity. You realize that sometimes the most profound impact is made by waiting, by watching, by responding thoughtfully rather than forcing change. Breathing slowly, you feel the warmth of life beneath your feet, the pulse of quiet growth in every root, every leaf, every small branch. CRISPR waits patiently at the edges of your awareness, a reminder that potential exists without demand. You sense that the garden, in its quiet, layered wisdom, is teaching you one more lesson. Restraint is a form of strength, patience a kind of precision, and care itself can be transformative. And as the gentle breeze drifts through the leaves, carrying the soft hum of distant life, you sense the horizon opening. Ahead lies perspective, the long view of human care, of generations and seasons, of time's slow, patient unfolding. Your breath slows further, and you feel the world expand around you, carrying you forward toward understanding that is as vast as it is gentle. You lift your gaze, letting the garden expand beyond the immediate leaves and branches, noticing the horizon stretching softly, the faint glow of dawn teasing the edge of night. The garden is no longer just the paths beneath your feet. It is the sweep of generations, the accumulation of seasons, the slow layering of care over time. You inhale slowly, feeling the rhythm of history, biology, and human curiosity settle into your chest. You exhale gently, allowing the scope of this vision to calm your mind. From this distance, CRISPR feels less like a tool and more like a whisper on the breeze, a small possibility in a vast landscape. Its presence is gentle, not insistent. It is not the garden itself, nor does it dictate the garden's rhythm. You sense how the slow unfolding of science, observation, and discovery carries far more weight than any single intervention. Allergies, once tangled vines, now appear as part of a broader pattern. They are threads woven into the complex fabric of life, visible only when you step back enough to see the connections. Some threads may be eased or adjusted, others left exactly where they are. Each action or inaction becomes part of a long-term balance, a network of care that stretches across years, across families, across generations. You imagine generations of gardeners, of parents and children, of caretakers learning slowly from the land, from the garden within, from the patterns that pass quietly through time. Some seeds carry resilience, some fragility, all shaped by environment, guidance, and patience. The garden is patient. You are patient. You can trust the unfolding. Breathing in, you feel a warmth rise from the soil beneath you, connecting your body to the history of growth it has supported. Breathing out, you release any tension or urgency, allowing the garden to guide your awareness outward, to the broad sweep of life and learning. You notice how time itself feels soft, like layers of moss cushioning each step, each choice, each curiosity. Science, you realize, moves like slow composting, transformative, nourishing, patient. It breaks down old layers, repurposes what is useful, and creates richness for new growth. CRISPR, discoveries, ethical reflection, human care, all of it composts slowly, providing fertile ground for thoughtful action and understanding. Nothing is wasted. Everything contributes quietly to the long-term balance. You feel grounded by the scale of this vision, the slow rhythm of generations, the way choices ripple gently across time. There is reassurance here. Even small acts of care, attention, and patience accumulate into lasting change. You are part of that rhythm. Your breath matches it. Your awareness matches it. The garden hums faintly around you, a soft symphony of leaves rustling, insects droning, dew settling. Paths once tangled now appear as harmonious patterns. Every root and branch has its place. You sense the cumulative wisdom of countless seasons, each building on the last. You are both observer and participant, aware that restraint, understanding, and quiet attention are as powerful as action. You notice the moon fading behind the trees, the stars dimming in the first hints of dawn. Light spreads slowly over the garden, illuminating the paths you have walked, the hedges you have observed, the shears resting quietly nearby. CRISPR waits in the periphery, patient and calm, a tool whose presence is meaningful only when guided by care. Breathing in, you carry this long view into yourself, letting patience and perspective settle deep within. Breathing out, you release expectation, releasing the need for immediate answers, releasing the illusion of control. The garden, the cells, the pathways, and the tools all continue their gentle work. You are part of the rhythm, part of the unfolding, and that is enough. And as dawn hints faintly beyond the horizon, touching the tips of leaves with soft light, you sense a quiet invitation. Rest is near. Awareness can soften. Curiosity can settle. The final layer of the garden awaits. A place of stillness, of stars, of unedited wonder, where care begins with listening rather than doing. The breeze drifts across the leaves, carrying you forward, gentle and unhurried, into the quiet space that waits. You lie back on the soft soil, letting the garden cradle your body. Every leaf above you trembles faintly in the gentle breeze. Every root beneath you hums softly with life. You inhale slowly, feeling warmth spread from the earth through your chest. You exhale, letting your shoulders melt, letting your mind settle. There is no need to move, no need to act. You are simply here, resting, watching, breathing. The stars above are quiet witnesses, unedited and unaltered, shining without expectation. They remind you that not every detail requires intervention. Some patterns are beautiful simply because they exist. CRISPR rests nearby, a tool that waits, calm and patient, not demanding to be used. Its presence is reassuring rather than urgent. It is possibility without pressure. You notice the garden around you settling into rhythm. The hedges, once dense, breathe. Pathways open slowly, naturally, without force. Allergies, those overzealous sentries of the immune system, drift along quietly, their vigilance softened by understanding. You sense that every cell, every branch, every pathway is exactly where it should be. Not perfect, not hurried, just enough. Breathing in, you feel the pulse of life all around you. The slow hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, the faint vibration of roots beneath the soil. Breathing out, you release the need to intervene, the urge to guide, the desire to fix. Presence itself becomes enough. Observation itself becomes care. CRISPR, though resting, carries a quiet promise. Not to dominate, not to rewrite, but to assist when guided by patience and wisdom. It is a gentle companion, not a master. You feel comforted by this restraint, reassured that science, like the garden, thrives best when it moves in harmony with life rather than against it. You watch the stars above, noting their faint shimmer in the darkness, their persistence through night and time. They are reminders that patterns unfold naturally, slowly, and without demand. Life itself is patient, capable of quiet adaptation and resilient growth. You are a part of this rhythm, breathing with it, listening with it, resting within it. The cool air brushes your skin, the hum of the garden lulls your mind, and you notice that sleep is no longer distant. It drifts in quietly, like a soft wind over leaves, carrying you into calm awareness. There is no urgency. There is no fear. There is only the gentle unfolding of night, of life, of understanding. You sense that care begins not with tools, not with intervention, but with listening, watching, breathing, allowing space. These are the acts that matter most. Allergies, genes, growth, choice. They all coexist in this quiet equilibrium, waiting for insight, waiting for patience, waiting for touch that comes gently and respectfully. Breathing in, you feel gratitude for the stillness, for the quiet lessons, for the rhythm of life. Breathing out, you let go of the need to control, to perfect, to predict. The garden, the stars, the tools, the life within you, all exist in harmony. You are part of it without obligation, without demand, without expectation. And as your eyes drift toward the faint shimmer of starlight, the garden around you exhales softly, carrying the final lesson. That rest itself is a form of care, that listening is a form of action, and that patience is the quietest, most enduring way to tend life. The night holds you, the stars keep their vigil, and your breath, slow and steady, drifts like a leaf on the wind, carrying you gently into the first hints of sleep, ready for whatever unfolds next.